But just to let you know that obviously we try to give you a wide perspective. So it's not just about the perspective of those working in the system, but it's also about those that experience the system as well, isn't it? So in order to extend that understanding, and certainly for those of you that are doing this as an area on the exam, is that we have invited Joanne Hartley along to give you a talk about her experience as the partner of somebody who was sentenced with an imprisonment for public protection sentence. And the idea is to give you a personal insight really, but also to the amazing work that she does and her family do, and other families in that situation, to raise awareness about the use of the IPP sentence. So please give her a warm welcome. She's extremely nervous, and I know she doesn't need to be because you are lovely students that you'll make her feel very welcome. But if we can give her a nice round of applause. Yeah, you let me know when you want this.
Hello, I'm Joanne Hartley. Generally, I'd be walking up and down outside of prison with a megaphone, and that I can speak. But I'm basically here to talk about the IPP, which is Imprisonment for Public Protection. It was brought out by the Labour government in 2005 and was abolished retrospectively in 2012. It was basically it was meant to be given for people, serious violent offenders like paedophiles, murderers and rapists, but they ended up giving it to people for minor crimes. The judges at the time said that it was down to them who they gave it to. So they was given a tariff which was a time that we were meant to serve, and after that time you could apply to the parole board to be released. My partner, his tariff was 2 years and 11 months, and he served 13 years. The reason he served that long is down to the parole board and probation. They gave him courses that wasn't even set for them, basically. They'd give them a course to do, like there's a new course now called the Kazin course, and a lot of people have been given it, but they're not high enough risk to do the Kazin course. So that will mean that the parole will be delayed again.
You know, and we've talked about this, isn't it, that the IPP sentence was originally arrangement out of the case of Sarah Payne. I mean, we all know the story of Sarah Payne, and Whiting, the guy who was prosecuted for Sarah's murder, was somebody who had been deemed as high risk but had been released and obviously had gone on to murder Sarah. So that was all in a big backlash of public hype, public upheaval, and the government made a knee-jerk response to that public pressure. And we've seen this when we looked at the Bulger case, and when we've examined that relationship between public pressure and the government wanting then to be able to address that pressure and to be able to show that the public that they are in control and that the system works. The problem with the IPP sentence was that it was triggered so easily that if you were convicted of a specified offence, 2 specified offences within a period of 10 years, it meant that you were subject to the sentence. So if you take a scenario, if you were involved in a skirmish at school with another school member, another pupil, and that was recorded as an offence, even a common assault, and then you were later on, 10 years later, or even 9 years later, you've gone out on a night out with friends, you've been attacked in a pub bar outside in public, and you defend yourself, and that person has you arrested, you trigger the IPP sentence. So it meant that because the trigger was so easily done, is that we've gone from a population of high-risk offenders from 300 to 3,000 within less than 12 months. And when you look at the figures since, 1 in every 18 prisoners is an IPP prisoner. And the reason that Joe and other family members are raising awareness about this issue is because although the sentence has been repealed, and rightly so, we still have a situation where there's 4,000 prisoners still languishing in prison, and some of them, like Ian, way beyond their tariff period.
Sentence was meant to be, when they first implemented it, it was meant to be given to 900 people. They ended up giving it 9,000.
And Ian was one of them.
And Ian was one of them. And like it would have worked out properly, because for them 900 people, they were paedophiles, murderers and rapists, and they're the courses that they had set for them people. So the ones with the minor crimes, they didn't fit them courses because they were never a risk. And that's what you've got to prove, that for you to be released, you've got to prove you're not a risk. But how can you prove you're not a risk anymore if you're still in prison? Because in prison it's just full of drugs and violence. Ian's actually wrote a letter to say what it's like in there. And I'd say in the last 20 years, Ian's only been out in community for 4 months because of this IPP sentence. Because the one before, he did a post office robbery in Darwin. He hurt someone with a machete. But this IPP sentence that he's got, there was no violence, it was robbery. And it was just the fact that because of his past crimes, that's why he got the IPP sentence. But the judge at the time who gave it him, Judge Slinger, didn't even know what the IPP was. He had to bring him back 3 days later to explain the sentence to him.
Yeah, and that
So-
reinforces what the probation officer was just saying. Because obviously before the session, I was speaking to Rob about his role within the recommendation of sentences as part of the pre-sentence report. And he said, yeah, well, in terms of IPP, we were just giving recommendations based on the information we had about the individual offender. We were never aware that we were going to be used in the way that they were by judges. And we've seen this before, haven't we, where the government formulate policies, they give guidelines about the minimum use of custody. Remember when we've looked at this idea that custody should only ever be used when the case warrants it? That's set in legislation. It was set in the Criminal Justice Act 1991, again in the Criminal Justice Act 2003. Yeah, relentlessly, judges don't follow that guidance and use IPPs almost indiscriminately. And certainly in terms of the idea for Ian is that although he was given requirements and conditions, not being able to fulfil them means that you're almost stuck in this constant loop of wanting to change, wanting to show that they no longer pose a risk, but not being given access to the elements of the requirements that they need to be able to do that. You know, and this is something for you to think about if you're going to be answering this as an exam question, is how do you prove you no longer pose a risk to society when you're not being given the opportunities to demonstrate that? How do you do that? It's almost impossible, isn't it?
Probation, they wanted Ian to basically comply and be like we are on the street. But when you're in prison, you're in that kind of environment where there's violence, there's drugs. You show any sign of weakness and you've got to be vulnerable. And that's the point that Ian got to. Ian's always had a drug habit and he's done every possible course known in prison, the TC courses. But there's no support. You go into one of these lessons and basically it's all inmates just bouncing off each other. They just come out the cells to go in there to pass the time of day. No one's there because they want to be there, and Ian was. And it's easier to get drugs in prison than it is actually on the street. And these people that are giving these drugs, they don't care. I've had phone calls. I've spent over £20,000 on drugs because the IPP label, if you don't pay a bill, then he's going to fine, and that's the last thing you want on his record because he's not going to get his parole. And people, they use that, even the officers use that to their advantage. IPPs get a lot than normal prisoners because they know they're vulnerable. And it's like Ian was coming up for his parole, and 2 days previous, 4 people actually walked up to him and he thought they were going to do something, so he jumped onto the netting. Jump onto the netting, it's a nicking, and that doesn't look good. So he had to explain himself away. It's so hard for the IPPs, and when you've got no family that is supporting you, because it's down to each individual. When it's not, it's down to probation, it's down to a lot of people, but it all falls down on the IPP. Or going to do when we have no support from anybody? We're just going to sit back and do nothing. And they know that they think that they're never going to get out. There's no hope. It's torture. It's mental torture. It's horrible. It's a 99-year life sentence with no release date. To me, it's... Well, do you know what? I'm happy that Ian's in rehab now, because I fought so hard for that, doing all the protests.
Yeah, so tell us about Smash IPP. What do you do to raise awareness?
Smash IPP, they're a collective anarchist group that help families like myself. We offer support to other IPP family members, letter writing, we do protests, we write letters for probation, we do templates, all different things like that. But I've even reached out to other family members that I know that are IPPs, and they don't want to take that support because they think that it's going to affect their IPP, them fighting their throats. Yeah, it does. Because that's how probation want the inmates and families to feel. But I got a letter to say, you know, I went to, on July last year, I went to I met David Blunkett and 3 people from the Pro Board, and they basically said, keep fighting, this is what we want.
Yeah, because he's gone on statement, hasn't he, David Blunkett, obviously at the time was
He regrets it.
He regrets the policies in the legislation.
It wasn't him that brought it out, it was Jack Straw.
Yeah, it was.
Jack Straw brought it out. And he did that for a reason. He wanted to see how it affected the mental health of prisoners. And he chose people that were vulnerable, cheap people that were lower class, hoping that they'd be forgotten about. And they are forgotten about. That's why we need to educate people.
They do discriminate against the family members though, don't they? Because they do discriminate against the family members campaigning, because like with yourself, you were down as a security risk on Ian's security report through doing the campaigning. That's not a security
so what's
risk.
the response you've had from probation in terms of the role that you're trying to do in raising awareness about the issue of IPP?
Probation was against me. I fought hard to get rid of it, and I did. I got rid of his probation officer. She manipulated him. I had a case of domestic violence 2 years ago with my kid's dad, and he raped me basically. And she actually went into, because Ian got released 2 years ago to Kirkham Prison, and she actually went in there and filled his head with shit, basically saying that we'd all have to sit round the table, we should do services. He has issues with his mum, does Ian. He said we'd have to sit down and talk about that. His head just fell off, and he took shitloads of drugs. But she planted that seed. So, and then 2 days later,
Knowing it, we returned it to himself.
Exactly. But the day after she had a visit, she ran on her visit, I had a visit. So it made out that I took drugs in. I fought for 3.5 years getting to rehab. Why would I do that?
And jeopardise
that. So from that, we've ended up with a new probation officer who's really nice. She'll sit down, she'll talk to you, she treats you how you treat her. And this is why we've ended up getting released.
So by making that allegation against you, what were they able to do in terms of restricting your access to rehab?
At that time, nothing, because there was nothing concrete. But obviously from then, I've done protest after protest, and last October, because Ian was always under the influence, even when I wasn't under the influence, which really pissed me off. They took from that, because they could see how much hard work I was doing, the letter writing. We had a letter that went in the Inside Times, because he was fighting back. They basically said I was trafficking contraband. Now, security in prison don't need no evidence, they just need you to say to someone, oh, such and such, and they'll go for that. So that went for that. So basically, I got a 3-month ban and 3-month forced visits. I wrote to my MP got involved, and basically, my MPs, they got a letter from the Justice Secretary saying that Ian, halfway through that, Ian had been moved to the drug-free wing. There's no such thing as a drug-free wing in prison. It's basically somewhere where they dispense methadone. And all the drug dealers, that's where they go, because that's where they know they're going to make their most money.
What impact did that have on Ian's emotional health and well-being? That idea that he couldn't access you, that you weren't able to go and see him.
It was still big time. Because there's no support there. I was his only support. and they took that away from him.
You think he maybe in terms of his development and in terms of rehabilitation, was that quite a back step for him?
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
I actually took a visit for Joanne to take her daughter in because so that it wasn't a close visit for her, and he told me at the time he preferred to take as much spice as he could to put him in a drug-infused state where he was just obliterated and didn't know what was going on to get him through each day.
Yeah, and
Because he had no
Ian's
support
not
from
alone,
Joanne.
you know, that in terms of talking to prisoners, especially those in IPP, is that they know for them there is no end of the road. So how do you pass the time of day within that? Should we bring up his open letter?
Yeah.
You want to see?
Yeah.
So this is Ian's open letter.
Right, this is when I first started with Scottish IPP, and Ian actually wrote a letter to the lady that started it, Helly, about how he was feeling. It says, "Thank you for your leaflets and postcards. It's so true what's printed on the front, and thank you again for the help, direction and support you're giving to Joanne. It's good to know that us IPPs have people fighting for us outside and giving a voice to forgotten ones. I've spent a lot of time in prison since 1989 due to my own selfish ways. Sentences I never really gave a thought to. They were like water off a duck's back, to put it bluntly. Sadly, really. I was in boarding school from the age of 5 years old, but I have always known when I was getting out. Then in 2006, I was given a sentence to 3 years, 17 days. With 3 years and 17 days to go. I didn't have a clue what had happened, and I wasn't the only one. The sentencing judge, Mr. Slinger, didn't understand either, because 3 days later I was called back to court and he couldn't explain what the sentence meant. Coming on 12 years later on, broken back, I'm still here wondering the violent drug fuel rings, not knowing when and if I'm ever going to get out. It's an environment I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. About probation, in my opinion, they don't have a clue what's going on in prison or on the wings or how to handle IPP prisoners. I have a big problem with substance since the age of 8 or 9. I have had clean times, but I've also had problems on this sentence. I hate waking up in the morning and I can't wait to go to sleep at night. When sleep does come, that is. My probation officer commented that for someone who has been in prison for as long as I am headstrong. I took that as I am not broken like she wants me to be. 7 years ago, the probation was supporting me for residential rehab. Then that support was withdrawn for attempting to smuggle drugs 18 months before. My fault, I fully accept that. Me and probation argued and are still arguing on this day. Last year, with no help whatsoever, I gained funding from Preston Adult Social Services and a placement in residential rehab. But in fact, the probation inside and out were not supported and dead against it. And they let them all know that very much so. But 100% supported of Cat D. When I explained to the probation it would be better off, would be a matter of when and not if I lapsed into drugs in Cat D. She wrote in her report that I threatened to use drugs. If I went into Cat D, that I would use drugs and that I was trying to manipulate my release to rehab. What a crock of shit. She claimed she wanted me in Cat D. I lapsed and went to spoke to officers and asked for help. I was moved to a drug-free wing, which is no such thing in there, where I was giving negative urine samples. 5 or 6 weeks later, my probation officer came up to see me and explained that I really looked well, and she didn't expect it really because she'd told about my lapse. On that visit, she started to talk about my childhood, and I was saying stuff like, "What answers do you want from your mum? You need to let it go. You're not going to get answers to your questions." Then she started to tell me about her childhood and how she was brought up by her father and not her mother and how strict he was and things like that. Then on about her own children and how they were disciplined, beaten. She said, "But I accept nothing like you. I accept nothing like you was here, but it was different here and you need to let it go here." She started to talk about Joanne's ex-husband who sexually assaulted her and how I would have to sit in a room with him and Joanne and social services over the case. Then ended the visit. Left me with a big head fuck. I felt she pulled me in and duped me with her patter about herself. That night I lapsed. The screws walked in on my pad, so I was under the influence and found a bag of drugs on the side. They handcuffed me and put me in the block and sent me back to closed conditions the next day. that was her test. I've had her for over 3 years as my offender manager, and that was the first ever time I've seen her one-to-one. It's always been with the offender supervisor. If I wasn't so headstrong, I would have took my own life long ago. I don't live, I exist in this life, and drugs have been my coping mechanism since a very early age. Thinking about how my family and Joanne's will feel like I deal with it, it's kept me alive, because I wouldn't want to put them through that sort of thing. The sentence is killing so many people within themselves. There were so many times I've put myself in segregation for 5 to 6 months at a time. How can the powers that be expect you to change when every time that cell door opens you've got to put on the mask so you yourself don't become a victim of the violence that happens every day on the wings. Last year, us cleaners on the wings sorted some bullies out and then moved off the wing and praised us. I went into Cat D. Then when I came back, I got put on a condemned little dingy wing. Lo and behold, the bullies were on there. I didn't see it coming. I just woke up in a pool of blood. I hadn't even put my property in myself. It looked like I'd gone 12 rounds with Ricky Hatton. 3 days later, a screw said, "Fucking hell, what happened?" I said 3 days ago. She said, "There's nothing in the observation book." I knocked to visit back with my family because I didn't want to frighten them. My mum and sister were sat in the visiting room, but I couldn't come out of my pad. I asked to be removed off the wing, but was left on the wing because I wouldn't name names. But what I did say was, you lot, meaning the screws, know about the bullying incident when it went on E-wing, and you put me on the same wing as the bullies. I was still left on the wing. After pleading with a few officers, I was still left there. I was only moved back to E-wing after Joanne performed demanding me to be moved. Prison is a jungle, the worst ever, and 80% of the screws are spectators of their own choice, and they get a rush from it. I filled in an all-interest risk assessment. Do you want to finish that off? I'm still going there.
I filled an own interest relocation risk assessment, which is a violent reduction form. I didn't name anybody. The screw came up to me and said, "You need to give us names." This was outside another inmate's cell, and he saw and he heard everything. I told the screw to get away from me. It was like he was trying to create a situation or incident or whatever you want to call it. Nobody knows what the environment is like unless you live or work here. No wonder people are killing themselves, cutting themselves or drugging themselves. I might be headstrong, but I honestly don't know how long I can keep going like this. I need emotion, love, compassion. I get that every week on a visit, that's it. The rest is dark, scary, sorry. Sorry for rabbiting on, but that's what it's like to walk in a prisoner's shoes. It's just a snippet of what goes on here. Slashings every other day, people beaten with table legs, broom handles, stabbings. It's no holds barred. Russell Crowe, Gladiator, would struggle, and that's no joke. I wouldn't be surprised if this letter doesn't make it to you. I'll leave it there for now.
On B-wing, that was actually down to him looking after a lad on E-wing who was very vulnerable, and the officers said he got beat up because he owed money. Anything that happened to Ian, it was always because of drugs and the fact that they said he had a bill. So because he's not paid the bill, then that's what's happened to him, but his bills were always paid. We shouldn't have done, but me and Ian have always had a mobile phone, because obviously that's the only way you can communicate and you can keep in contact with each other and give him all the support. And I think in the last 3 years he must have been hit with about 8 phones. But he got caught with one in February, and obviously because he had his first parole in November and they deferred it. They deferred it till December, and I was bound, so I wasn't allowed. So then he got deferred again until 4th of April. He got caught with a phone in February, and he's still taking spice. He's not thinking I'm getting my parole, because he's always getting knockback after knockback. And he's used somebody else's phone where this guy basically was supplying him with spice. He was going and just giving him try this. From that phone, he's got my number, he's then got my daughter's. He was sending my daughter messages, she's 15, asking her to go and buy an iPhone to do FaceTime. And go and get a new. He had he had a Leica SIM, we have Sky, and Sky can't message Leica. So he was sending messages like, go get a new SIM, we'll talk this, we'll talk that. He was sending me messages saying that you look good in this underwear, because it was near Valentine's. I sent like loads of like movie cards, you know, like a scene up to Valentine's, and he went through all his mail. And we went to the police, and the police didn't even get that guy's phone, and he groomed my daughter.
He did
She
that
had
once
the
he
phone
was
to me.
under the influence, didn't he, as well? He
Yeah.
waited while he gave
Yeah.
all the drugs to do it.
So I spoke to some other lad that was actually in prison, and two lads had gone to Ian's door and seen this Paul on Ian's bed, but he looked like he looked like he was looking through a paper, but Ian was flat out on the bed, and that's the day that he'd gone through all the emails and everything. He knows my address. It was disgusting.
So we've given him the spice to.
Given him to, obviously he was buying off him, but it
But
gave
then
him more and
manipulate
more
that.
to, then yeah, and it took me about 2 weeks to get through to him because he was always on the influence.
And what did the prison staff say about it? What can our students say if they want to get involved in
They can sign up for the pages, the Smash IPP or free and partly one. You can write to IPP Business.
There's a lot of them don't.
Yeah, a lot of them don't have anyone. Smash IPP do have somewhere where IPP Business write to, but it's called Next to Nowhere, and they pick up the mail every 6 months. So
So long.
and they don't need that. They need someone that's gonna write to them, you know, all the time, because that's all we want someone to listen to. Because you know, even for me, when I've got something on my mind, if I write it down, it makes you feel so much better. And that's all they need. They just need someone to listen to them and know that there's support out there, because they think they're forgotten about. Because a lot of the families do forget about them.
But if anybody does want to get involved or support or write a letter to an IPP prisoner, then I will make the contact information available to you. Are you okay with the questions, Jo?
Yeah.
Any questions for Jo?
Is the government looking at changing it?
Francis Cook wants this. Francis Cook's trying to. They want to reduce. The IPP is never going to go, but they want to reduce the 10-year licence to 2 years, because once you're like Ian now, once he's released, he's in rehab. There's no conditions on him, only what the rehab have given him. But once he's released from the rehab, he's got that many conditions on him. It's like my kid's dad who did that to me. He could just make out that he's sinning in the street, he's giving loads of verbal abuse, no questions asked. Ian will just be recalled, and then it's the same process, and it's like that for all of them.
It's like he's living his life
Yeah,
on
it's
their
just,
shelves, isn't it?
yeah, you're just looking over your shoulder all the time, and for me, that's more scary now.
Do they not need, I mean, obviously they need, so someone can just make something like that up, they need some kind of evidence. You can't put something back in prison just because, to me,
It
it's got that
sounds
label
like
of
they
you're
don't
not
bother.
being an IPP.
You don't, because it is that IPP label, because if they gave it to the wrong people, they gave it to the wrong people, so automatically the IPP, they're not really bothered.
But
They'll just
really,
recall
their
you.
justice isn't being done.
It's
So why haven't you looked at them ones that they've given to and recalled them and done
I think
something?
what it is it's taking so long to get cases heard. I mean, Jo will tell you how long she's been fighting to get Ian's case heard.
Yeah.
Is that it's taken so long, and that's on the basis that Ian had somebody to fight for him. You've got to think about the families that don't have anybody that is trying to further their cause, nobody to represent them, nobody to see the actual impact that the sentence is having on them on an emotional level or their health and well-being. So what do you do for those individuals?
It's like the government's been that quick to put this in place, but not as quick to look at where they've gone wrong and really
I
change
think
it.
a big issue is this idea of nobody wants to be accountable for letting an IPP out and then going on then and doing something serious.
But that's if they're really high risk, but he obviously wasn't high risk. Although he'd done what he'd done, to me he wasn't.
You've got
much
James Ward had mental health issues. Prison doesn't deal with mental health issues. James Ward was in down the block for 2 years, and basically he robbed a mobile phone. He got a 10-month tariff. He because of his mental health, he set fire to his mattress in his cell, right? So on release, he got gate arrest, got the IPP. Got 10 months, served 11 years.
See, the thing is, it's a vicious circle because someone might go in for a petty offence, someone might go in for a petty offence, but because of the environment they're in, they might go on to do harsher crimes. So they get let out and then
Get arrested
they
again.
get arrested again because they've done something harsher that really they wouldn't have done so in past because they've been in prison in that environment for so long. So really when someone's been been on an IPP, you know, if they've got drug issues, they've got to obviously the drug issues sorted out, but also they have to be sort of be reconnected into society as well, haven't they?
Yeah, sure.
They need special help in doing that.
Yeah,
Well,
and
it's not just family, but
they send them to, it's like a lot of the IPPs now, they're not sending them to Caddy, sending them to approved premises, and in there you've got people like heroin addicts.
that hostels and things like
Yeah,
that.
and basically that's just setting them up to fail. IPPs and lifers should be released to a specific unit where they are getting the support that they need. Because they're not like everybody else.
No, we're assuming prisons addressing their needs.
Yeah, but they're not. They don't. No, they're just skirting around it.
You send them to prison to punish them, but really you just put them in a worse environment than what if they're not putting them in this. It just makes things worse.
Yeah, of course it does.
I was just going to say, that's sort of sort how do you yourself manage, like, writing and going and seeing, because that must be so hard to sustain your relationship and keep your mental health going if you're,
You know what?
it's
Doing the
really
full-
hard for you.
Doing the full test, doing something positive all the time.
Gives you something.
It's
It's
that's something for me, yeah. All the letter writing that I've done to probation, HMBPS, parole board are phenomenal. Martin Jones he's taught the parole board into the 21st century. I went to an open debate with my daughter in February, and basically what they're doing now, they're setting up a new guideline where they want every service putting in place, like NHS, probation, all the reports have to be in by a deadline, so they're not deferring all the time. Yeah, and that's what they want. They just want. They're thinking of the inmates and not because it's. I think this year alone they released 960 something IPPs. They recalled 847.
Oh. So what you letting any out?
That's what
It
it
shows
shows.
it doesn't work. It doesn't work as an answer because I'm going around.
We just set them up to fail, aren't they? They're putting them, taking them out of prison, putting them in an hospital. Well, obviously they're in that environment, aren't they?
Exactly. And this is the danger, isn't it?
And that's what we do. We want to test them. We
Yeah.
want to test them.
Because we want them to speed up the process of release, but not to the point where that jeopardises them no longer posing their aim. So how do you do that in a balanced way that doesn't jeopardise the individual then being back in?
But it's not balanced because they're putting them in a negative environment.
But they come from a negative environment to another negative environment. But probation say, right, well, you know, we're giving you this opportunity now. You've got to prove you should be doing what they're doing. That's what we do. Exactly. Because they're meant to be headstrong, but a lot of them now are way over time. And the mental health.
Is there the people that you get other families that support you, or do you find that you're on your own?
I support the families.
That's you.
Joe
really
works
support
really
the
hard,
families.
yeah. What
So
Joe's
who
not
do you
telling
have
her is
there
that
for
she
you?
does this tirelessly.
Right.
Is that she spends every hour of the working day and she's got a family with children and a job, and if she's not doing that and looking after her kids, that she's constantly fighting for those IPP prisoners that are still in there.
And that's what he wants to do as well.
Yeah.
But there'll be things for him where he's not allowed.
At least it's what you fighting for it. Like I say, a lot of them don't have anybody.
Well, they've just become forgotten, haven't they? Yeah, we admit that the sentence doesn't work and it's been repealed, and that's great. But we need to think now about how we change the process and how we allow them to access the support they need to be able to prove that they don't pose a risk to society, but doing that in a holistic way, not just releasing them and hoping for the best.
They can't release them and show them they're not a risk until they release them.
Any more questions for Joe? She's thinking I can't get And obviously the PowerPoint that Joe's provided we'll put onto Moodle.
Do you want us to these?
Yeah, that'd be great.